The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Elissa Valente, and we are here today to be talking about the Family First Prevention Service Act, which is federal legislation that just became enacted September 29th, and it's creating big changes in the foster care system. The Act creates reforms for federal financing with the intention to keep children safely at home using the least restrictive environment and also based on the kids' needs. So there's increased support for finding a relative or close family associate to serve as a foster parent, and this is known as kinship care. And the goal is to place them in a placement where they're familiar with individuals as opposed to a home where they do not know the individuals where they're going to be living. As a leading provider of foster care services in our area, Northern Rivers Family of Services is uniquely prepared for this transition and offers a comprehensive support program for these kinship care providers throughout their journey. So I'd like to introduce you to Colleen Vogel, who's the Senior Director of Foster Care Services, and to Noleen Smith, who is a local kinship caregiver. So welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Colleen, do you want to start us off by telling us a little bit about your services and what it is that you do?
Sure. Northern Rivers, we're comprised of 3 affiliates, Northeast Parent-Child Society, Parsons Child and Family Center, and Unlimited Potential. And I'm here to talk about our foster care services. And we have foster care offices all over the state. We actually have 7 different locations. In the Capital District, we have Albany, Schenectady, and up in Queensbury, we have Hudson and Johnstown. We also have offices in Oneonta area in Binghamton. We work with the various counties. We contract with the counties, and we service kids who come into foster care from birth up into 21 years of age. We have a comprehensive team on each of our offices that have a supervisor, a clinician. We have nursing staff, care managers that come to the home once a week, and family support workers to help with the families and our staff.
Okay. Very comprehensive. And Noleen, what brings you to kinship caregiving?
I run a program, as I said before, that's the Baby Institute. So we meet with parents on Saturday mornings, and we keep them for about 9 weeks of intense training around how to prepare your child for lifelong learning and give them the kind of support. So the child I'm fostering, his mother brought him to our program when he was 4 months old. And as a social worker, I not only does the counseling and the workshops, but I'm really connected to the parents that I serve. I make sure that they know who I am, they know what I'm able to do. I've been advocating in the city of Albany for kids and support services, including education, since 1981. So I have a lot of knowledge, and I make sure they know that they can always call me. In this particular case, this young woman was at a home that takes care of young mothers, pregnant and with young children. And something happened, and then the child was removed. And it's interesting because the mother's first choice was to take the baby to one of our other moms, because we also help them understand that they're support service to each other and they should always connect. And so I heard about it late. By the time I heard, it was close to a week, and she was about to go to court and the other mom was going to go with her, and I'm like, she doesn't read at a third grade level really well, so maybe I should go. So I went to court, and I really wanted to make sure this little person that I have was going to be in a really good home, because he's a real beautiful kid, a kid that's easy to be fostered out. So I wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to make sure the mom wasn't slighted in any way, and that she had the opportunity to take her child. Unfortunately, we didn't go back to court. The pandemic hit and the court shut down. So I've had him now for he was 18 months, so I've had him now 20 months. And it's hard, like, you have to do the work, and I work full-time, I do this program, and he's a handful of joy. He really is. He's like the cutest little person in the world, and the brightest little person. I read to him every night. If I try to tell him he's going to go to bed early, he'll yell, but I have to read first.
And this story brings up an interesting point to me, because how do we define kin? Like, so in this legislation and going forward,
Yes.
do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, in the traditional sense, kin refers to family, and they have since changed it. So it includes full-time care of a child by a relative or someone that knows the family prior to going into placement. So we not only work with family members, but we have had teachers step up to become kinship families, coaches, people who are significant that know these kids prior to placements. So similar to what Noleen is describing.
I think that's important in that he was literally 18 months old when they brought him to me. And as soon as he saw me, he just reached out for me to take him.
Right.
Because it was clear that he knew that person.
Right. So that speaks to the benefits of this. What are some of the other benefits of kinship care that you see?
Exactly that.
Right.
The child is familiar with the people that they know. So it's hard enough. The families are going through whatever trauma, whatever the problems that the family's having. It's comforting to the parent. It's comforting to the child, someone that they're going to. So it's the same community, same cultural ties. If kids are in school, they don't have to change schools necessarily. So there's huge benefits for the kids.
And I imagine, so Noleen, you're in a position where you have a lot of training.
Right.
So I imagine there's a lot of folks that become kinship families that don't have that same experience. Maybe they're also struggling but want to help. So how does that work? I know in the foster care system there's training and you have to be certified. You have a lot of steps to take in order to become a foster family. How does that work for kinship?
So in my case, I've always wanted to be a foster parent, but I just, because I have a CSW in social work, refused to take the training. So I'm just like, no, you should just let me do it. I have a CSW since 1987, and I raised 3 children of my own. I'm not sitting through 9 weeks of driving to Schenectady, even in the winter, to get trained on something I already know. So this, though, made me take once I had them and they told me I had to take the training, I will say I listened to it. I did not participate.
But that got you to that training.
I was on Zoom. I was in my house, and I was able to, I was very respectful. I sat through. At some point, I ended up calling whoever was doing this, and I said, could you please tell one of these, there was a woman there just kept talking, and she just, I was like, could you tell her to stop bleeding the whole, I mean, I'm trying to listen to what other parents, because they're part of my base. I need to reach out to these, so it's just like, just tell her to bring it down a notch. It's like everything she had something to say, and I'm like, I have nothing to say. I'm just listening right now. And I was proud of myself because I'm a talker, so I was very proud of myself to get through those sessions on behalf of this little person.
Right. And not everyone who comes in has the experience and knowledge that Noleen has. So a lot of times, part of because kids who come to our program that are in the Kinship foster care program are in foster care. So our requirement is that families go through the training, and we do make it easy for the families because they're hit all of a sudden with we have these kids or children in our home, and they have to do these background checks, they do all these different things, and then on top of it, the training. So we hold their hand in making sure that they get the key important information to really, it's the skills to be successful in fostering. And we hone in on the needs of the child too, or the children in the home, and curtail the training to meet the needs of the family and the youth.
Yeah, that stood out in the training too. When I was watching it, there were examples of children, the types of things children would go through. It wasn't necessarily a child that's in, obviously, but it was clear like how things were resolved and how this young person ended up in a different situation versus just kind of languishing in some place that they may not be happy in.
Right.
And for me, the mom always had him call me grandma anyway. But he was closer to my older daughter. I had an older daughter that helped me out. But I remember one day I picked him up and I was taking him away from my daughter, and I could just see his face like, I'm not sure I should trust you because, there's a little bit of confusion with us because she looks a lot like me, and then it's like, but you're not her.
Yeah.
So I could kind of tell that he's very sensitive to that. So when he came, and you could just tell that he was like, thank God. If he could say those words, he would have said them.
Yeah.
That like it was somebody he knew. And for me, with his mom, it was just like, whenever she wanted to see him and talk to him, that was fine. It was not, Now it's not quite like that, because unfortunately, people expect to get their children back, but they don't always do what they need to do to get them back. So,
and just an important point that Noleen is saying is that birth-family connection, is really, that's one of the key things that we talk about in the training, and, being attuned to the child, everything that she's describing, she could tell, like, what the child's needs are, and that you have to really put yourself and get to know the child to know what the needs are, and understand the importance of the birth-family connection, and understand that no matter what, that's still your mom, that's still your dad, and honoring that.
Right, absolutely. And I'm curious too, I imagine people coming into it think a 9-week training, okay, so I get trained and then I'm on my own, then it's me. So I'm sure that's not true. Speak a little bit to what are the services then once the training's done, the connection is made, what are the services that continue after that to further support that?
Right. So families who come to us, it's a process where they're emergency certified. So, which means that when they come in, we automatically certify them and they do the training. We have 90 days to complete all the requirements. So on day one, you will be seen by the home finder who gives you the paperwork to start the training and all that. Then you have a case manager who comes into your home on a regular basis, and that's something that's set up based on the needs of the home. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's every other week, depending on what the needs of the family are. As I said earlier, we have a clinician on staff that can be consulted. Sometimes the child needs the individual work. Sometimes the behavior needs are such where the foster parents, kinship foster parents, need that added support, so we can consult, the clinician can consult with the family, maybe do some work in-house. Also, at the same time, working towards reunification too. So we're that go-between, because I know sometimes that it's uncomfortable for some of our kinship families in working with their family members too, that we can be that go-between, and that we're there to help set what the rules are, because boundaries can be blurred a little bit, especially if it's if it's a mom and daughter situation, that we can be in there to support what the rules are and enforce reinforce what the system is saying that needs to happen.
Excellent.
Yeah, and even in the training, they go over a lot of that over and over again to let people know that there's support there. So, yeah, I don't think anybody would have. I had a conversation with a woman yesterday who unfortunately is the great-grandmother of the children she's taking care of, and the father is not like abiding by the rules. Like he has certain times that he can come pick him up, but then he'll go and scream at this poor woman that they're his children and whatever. So I kind of spent some time with her yesterday and kind of gave her some structure stuff to say to the people when she talked to the Northern Rivers people, is to be very clear of what he's doing and how it makes you feel. And it's also right now affecting the daughter, one of the children, because she's 4.5 maybe. So it's almost like they're splitting her from the person that gives her the care, and that's not really fair, particularly when you're dealing with an elderly person that really can't. They're already intimidated, and I just kind of said to her, well, basically he doesn't make the rule, and he's just got to follow them. So make sure you let the staff know that you need their help in reinforcing that, because it's important.
And that's where those services come into play,
Yeah.
that Northern Rivers is there to support throughout the journey.
Yeah, knowing that from the training, it's easy to just say to her, you have support, make sure you use it.
And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So at any time, if it's not during the regular business hours and something comes up at 7, 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, we're a phone call away, that we can either be there in person, on the phone, and no matter what, holidays, it doesn't matter. That's an added support and benefit of our program.
Yeah, I haven't had to call you guys, but I did have to call the nurse one time.
Right.
Because it's just like, this little boy would just jump off of anything. And it was just like, can I get him a helmet? Because it was just like, he's going to hurt himself.
He's going to hurt himself, right.
And she was like, no, it's just boys. They'll grow out of it. Because I have children, but they're 3 girls. They just don't do the same thing. And it's just like, you're going to flip it. Even last night, he had a pillow down and stacking another one on, and it's like, he's going to jump. There's nothing I'm going to do to stop him from jumping.
Right.
So it's the couch
the pillow there.
If the pillow's there, if you bounce off, you're going to bump your head.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to get that. So, but yeah, there are enough people that you have that you can, even for a seasoned person like me, my oldest is 35, I think. So, it's just like, even with that, you still are really nervous. So it's important that the services are there and that you can, know who to call.
Right. That's great. Now, in New York State, I know you said you have foster care. There's also kinship care. So what is the range? How much kinship care is there versus foster care? I know there's a push to get more of it. So where is that at now, and what's the goal?
So the goal a few years back when the law was first put into place was that by this time we'd be at 30% of the kids in care. We have actually surpassed that. We're at 40%. So the goal in the next couple of years is to be at 50%. And the trajectory that is on, I am confident that that's going to happen.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the statistics that we had here, and they had said 33%, but that was 2019, so it sounds like that's gone up, so that's great. And there were some things that, despite challenges, kinship children do well or better on many well-being measures in comparison to kids that have been in foster care, so I can totally see where it's coming from and where that's going
Yes,
to.
yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's hard to have a kid. I watch these television shows and see what people do with kids, but you just can't understand it in a sense. But for the most part, the majority of people are going to take care of the kid.
Yeah, and the kids are going through so much trauma and so much, sometimes it's just traumatic just leaving the home. And so, to go into a home that you don't know as opposed to a home that you do know is, like I said before, it's so comforting for the child and for the family.
Yeah, he didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a beat.
And I can imagine in that age, the young one, but then also I imagine school-age kids, because they're in their community, they still maybe see their friends. There's all that social piece to it too as the kids get older, I imagine.
Yes.
So any tips that you guys have for someone who is looking to do this or knows that this could be a possibility? Any helpful advice or tips for someone out there who thinks, this may be something that might fit me. I have someone in my family that's going through this. What would you say to those people?
It's really hard to think about that because it's got to be in your soul. It's got to be in your belly. Like I said, I literally have 7 grandchildren, right? And none of them were birthed from my kids. None of my children have children. But I've had one kid since she was 9 months old, coming out of one of those group homes of some sort, and now our mom continued to have children. So I just have another 3 over here. It's just, so if it's not a passion for you, I wouldn't recommend it, obviously. Yes, you can do it, but it needs to be genuine. It just needs to be, this kid, I have no room in my house anymore because he just takes over the whole space. It's just like, he asks Georgia, he comes, I'm just like, I don't know where all these toys come from. Wherever he goes, he's as cute as a button. So people give him,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really, and luckily, his personality is also just a happy person. And so people like him, they want to pick him up. Sometimes I have to tell him, no, I know he's cute, but...
Well, it sounds like so having that willingness and that desire is really what drives you. Not even so much the training or what your past experiences, but just that desire.
Yeah, you have to, it can't be that you think you'll try it or you think it may work. It's got to be that you know that when you take this baby or this child, that you will give it everything. He's in the house. It's no different when the 2 youngest one of my girls are only 18 months apart, and it's just no different than when the only difference is he likes to jump off of stuff. Than that, it's just a kid that you say his prayers with him, you read to him, and it's just, sometimes you'll ask him what he wants to eat, he'll ignore you, but yeah, they do that. So you got to just know what it feels like to be the person that somebody's counting on.
I know there's some preconceived notions that I've heard with fostering. Well, I work full time. Well, I have kids of my own, or I don't have the, there's a lot of things you hear so what do you say to that? Like, what is...
Well, you work full time with your own children, right?
Yeah.
So my kids, as I said, are all grown. But I drop them off in the morning and I go pick them up. I've never forgotten them. You just don't. So it's just like, it's odd to hear that when people will go in and get a puppy and not think about it. It's just like, this is a human being. You'd be surprised. They could actually answer you.
Right.
And JoJo answers me a lot.
And it's a commitment. I think, what Noleen brings up a good point. It's a commitment that, people volunteering their time to do this. When it comes to kinship, sometimes it's family members, and families are in crisis mode, and when families are being reached out to other family members, are you willing to take these children? You're hit with yes, but they don't consider the emotional parts of it, the maybe financial and legal issues that come along with it. So people who are in the crisis mode, that there's resources out there. I would encourage people to do their research in terms of especially the legal, because it will determine, to know your legal status will determine to know what rights you have as a caregiver, what services that you're entitled to, which then leads to like the financial pieces of things. So, and the emotional considerations too, that when you're just hit with it, like, yes, there's family, I'm going to help, but then you don't kind of think about all the other things. So, the fear of the unknown, maybe some anger and resentment towards, the family member that caused this to happen. Some families that I've talked to, like there's that shame and guilt of like, how is it going to be like with my own kids? Am I neglecting them? So, it's about finding the right resources, the right support. And if you're in a program like a voluntary agency like ours, we can help you navigate that.
And I imagine a lot of that is probably covered in the training too, talking about some of those pieces that
I don't go
can
to
reassure
any of them
people.
anymore, but,
Right.
I feel like it's natural for me in a sense. It's if I needed something, I would definitely reach out. Right? It's not. It's just that I feel like, he's here.
Yeah.
Right.
You have all you need, and it sounds like you're enjoying your bundle of joy.
Yeah, and he's
as energetic as
and he's like the
they come.
smartest kid I've met. My older daughter was like super smart, and I'm like, yeah, he's ahead of her. I mean, all my kids, have a doctor, a lawyer, and a nurse, and a financial person, so they're all decent up there. But this kid wakes up talking to you. Does that make sense? So it's you look at the lava. Mama, you see the TV, the lava is spilling everywhere, and it's all over the place, and it's really hot. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it's like, it's fun. It's fun. So you miss that if you never give it a try. If you feel you want to do it, it's everything that people talk about. The biggest issue for me as a social worker is making sure kids are not hurt. And that's, if you know that you're not a person that's going to scream at a kid and shake on, you can provide that for a child that's that's the difference. I think if you don't have the right temperament, don't do it. But you have to have the right temperament, and the kid become your all. That's it.
Well, I think with those sentiments, and especially the story about lava, is a great place to wrap it up for today. It was a pleasure to talk to both of you and to talk about this new legislation, and it's great to hear that it's already had so much success, just over the past couple of years, and those numbers are going where they need to be. So I thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on Getting to Know You.